Hi folks. Let me start this topic with small story. John had always been a responsible saver. He had a good job and lived within his means, but he never felt the need to set up an emergency fund. He figured that he could always rely on his credit cards or borrow money from friends and family in case of an emergency. One day, John's car broke down on the way to work. He didn't have the funds to pay for the repair, and his credit cards were maxed out. He had to rely on public transportation to get to work, which was time-consuming and expensive. A few weeks later, John's landlord informed him that he would have to vacate his apartment in 30 days because the building was being sold. John had to scramble to find a new place to live, and he had to pay a hefty deposit and first month's rent up front. Without an emergency fund, he had to borrow money from his parents, which put a strain on their relationship. A few months later, John got sick and had to take time off work. He didn't have any paid sick leave, so he had to rely on his savings to cover his living expenses. Unfortunately, he didn't have enough saved up, and he had to dip into his retirement account, incurring penalties and taxes. John realized too late the importance of having an emergency fund. He learned the hard way that unexpected events can happen at any time and that relying on credit cards or borrowing from friends and family is not a sustainable solution. If he had set up an emergency fund, he could have avoided the stress and financial strain that came with his car breakdown, apartment move, and illness. So friends, it is our responsibility to save some emergency fund for emergency use. We will see about the emergency fund in following slides. An emergency fund is a savings account specifically designed to cover unexpected expenses or emergencies. It's important to have an emergency fund because unexpected events such as a job loss, medical emergency, or major car repair can happen at any time and can have a significant impact on your finances. Without an emergency fund, you may have to rely on credit cards or loans, which can lead to high interest payments and financial stress. Here are some steps to build an emergency fund. Determine how much you need. A general rule of thumb is to have 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses saved in your emergency fund. However, the amount you need may vary depending on your personal situation and risk tolerance. Set up a separate savings account. Keep your emergency fund separate from your regular checking and savings accounts to avoid accidentally spending it. Start small. If you're new to saving, start by setting aside a small amount each month and gradually increase it over time. Make it a priority. Treat your emergency fund as a priority expense and include it in your monthly budget. Avoid tapping into it for non-emergencies. Resist the temptation to dip into your emergency fund for non-emergency expenses, such as a vacation or new gadget. After COVID-19, everyone realized that the value of emergency fund. Having an emergency fund can provide peace of mind and financial security during unexpected situations. By taking the time to build and maintain an emergency fund, you can better protect yourself and your finances from unexpected events.